Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Daily Carry podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Victor Marx on episode 50. Today is episode 50. You realize that, right?
It's a big one.
Yeah, episode 50 today. But before we dive into talking a little bit about Victor Marx, who's running for governor here in Colorado,
Who we sat down with you. Let's qualify. We're not just talking about him. We had breakfast
with them yesterday morning.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But listen, you told me something right before we started that I was like, hold on, we got to get started. We're going to start recording. But
okay.
I just now found out for the first time, randomly, we were just talking, and then you just I don't know exactly how we got to this, but you started talking about executive protection a little bit. And then you say, oh yeah, I was working with Jim Carrey on the set of Ace Ventura 2 doing executive protection. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. What? You did what? You never told me that you did that. That's pretty cool.
So back in the day when I worked at the sheriff's office, my very first detail was with a guy that I work with named Larry Payne. And we were actually street cops on the road, and they Hootie and the Blowfish had a huge event. It was right after Tiger had won his first Masters. So you're gonna forgive me. It was like 97 or 98. It's a long time ago. I'm old. And it was like a lottery of people coming in. I mean, the who's who of who's who. They had this charity event. I mean, like probably 60 super notable names on the planet. Tiger was the biggest one at the time. And I knew Dean. I played hockey with Dean, who was the bassist in the band. So we played hockey in South Carolina, if you can believe that or not, inline hockey. And Dean tells us, hey, I won't be back for a while. We're going on tour. And I'm like, where are you going? He tells me, and I said, oh, what band are you with? And he says, Hootie and the Blowfish. And I go, what's Hootie and the Blowfish? Now, this is when they were first, this was before they were mainstream. They were a college band down in Columbia, South Carolina in 5 Points. And they had just released whatever that album is, their big one, the first one. And with Hold My Hand and all the big songs. Anyway, I'd been playing with this guy. I didn't even know he was a band member in Hootie and the Blowfish. That turns into, I think it was a year later, the event, the Monday after the Masters, that Hootie and the Blowfish sponsored. And Tiger ended up being my guy. And so Larry Payne and I had Tiger Woods and Darius Rucker all day long. Got to go hang with him, got to hit golf balls with him. It was cool. It was fun. I had him again. But while I was at the sheriff's office in the TAC world, occasionally you would get to go down onto movie sets. They shot a lot of film down in the greater Charleston area and then in some of the Bayou area. And they shot Ace Ventura 2 while I was down there. And so you got contracted to go down. And sometimes you'd sit on the perimeter of the set. Sometimes you'd, whatever. Sometimes it wasn't fancy at all. I just happened to have the opportunity to be on his six all day long. All day long.
Wow.
So it was fun. He's just in person, he's exactly like you would expect him to be like he is in the film. He just never shuts off. And he's absolutely hilarious. So like there's two scenes, and then we'll go to our subject, but there's two scenes were comical. So there's a lot of preset stuff, a lot of standing around waiting, and then there's 30 seconds of acting and a lot of standing around. Well, there's these gaffer dudes and whatnot and grip guys that come out and they set the stage. And then there's one guy, I think the role is called key grip or something, where they got to go back and make sure, like, if they're going to reshoot the scene, like the clock is at the same time. And if they're out on the ground, like if there were leaves on the ground, that they're standing in leaves again, like they don't just magically disappear. And there was this guy out and he was spreading the leaves around the ground. And Jim Carrey was walking behind him and picking the leaves up and throwing them as the guy's trying to spread them and set the stage. Jim's messing with him the whole time. So all of that was really funny. But the coolest part about the whole thing is they had this monster truck down there. It was this black and white, I believe it was a Chevy S10. It was a big one. It was like a big monster truck. It had like the big 8-foot wheels. But they also had a replica of the exact same truck that was a regular size truck. And that's actually what Jim Carrey drove in the film. And they shot him, even though they made it look like it was the big truck. So they had a stunt double driving the big truck, and then Jim Carrey was driving the small one. And so I got to drive around in the field with Jim Carrey, and we went out and did donuts in the small truck. It was a souped up V8 in a small truck, but we were out, and he was the exact same guy he was in the movie in the truck, looking over at me going, Mr. Policeman, are you going to pull me over for driving like this? And we were just not doing donuts. It was awesome. So it was fun. It was good. Yeah, it was a good time. So I've had,
that is crazy.
I've had a few.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I could not believe whenever you mentioned that off air, and I was like, wait, what? You never told any of the, you didn't say anything about that story before.
I'm so sorry. I'm not going to go into the story, but I will tell you the greatest gig I ever had was the Four Horsemen. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
So if you're in the pro wrestling world, it was Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, and Chris Benoit. And they came to the Columbia Coliseum, and they wrestled. And then that night, I was in the limo with them, and we went out for like 5 hours. I will tell you the adventure sometime. Arguably the funnest night I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
I mean, there's one thing to be in the ring and have that persona and that image. It's another thing to go out in a limousine with four dudes who are all bigger than me, by the way. Actually, I was bigger than Chris Benoit. I was bigger than him. But I was supposed to be their protection. And we went out and just had a ball. And the whole night, they were filming and they were mocking Macho, the Randy Man, Randy, the Macho Man Savage. I can't even say it right. Because he used to do commercials back in the day called Snap Into a Slim Jim. You ever seen those?
Yeah.
Snap Into a Slim Jim. And the whole night they were filming each other going, Snap Into a Slim Jim, Randy. And then they were just mocking, but like in a healthy way because they're all buddies. And that was when Randy had just started doing those commercials. So we were going to all the Amoco gas stations we could go to and buying them out of Slim Jims.
Wow.
People are people.
That's awesome.
The persona that you see and the behind the scenes sometimes is the same, sometimes it's not. But yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I've had a few details. I've had a few details here too.
That's awesome, man. That's super cool. Whenever you said Ace Ventura, I mean, Jim Carrey, yeah, for sure. But then when you said Ace Ventura, I grew up watching Ace Ventura. So
dude, that set was so cool.
Yeah, that was, whenever you said that, I was like, what? You did what now? That's crazy.
We did that on a plantation community that actually used to be, I'd have to dig into it, but I believe it was an old Civil War slave house. Like way, way, way back in the day. It's been sold and redone, but it was a historical site that we were on, that we filmed that at.
Wow.
It was really cool. Like 500 acres.
I would have never guessed that it was shot in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because the movies, makes you think that you're in, like Africa, right?
Yeah. No, it literally was shot in the backcountry of South Carolina. Well, the backcountry of South Carolina is a lot like the bush in some areas and the wetlands, yeah.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, that's a super cool
there you
story.
go.
Super cool story.
Victor Marx.
Yeah, Victor Marx. Guys, listen, this is crazy. So probably over a year ago now, I sat down at Chili's really late in the evening. I had to have something notarized. That was very important for me to be able to close the deal on the refinance on this building. And we were on a very tight time crunch. The broker that I was working with, John Romero, shout out to him if he's listening to this episode. I think that we'll have him on an episode at some point. He's got really cool stories too. He's been doing mortgage brokering just for decades, and he's got some cool stories. He was a delegate helping the Trump campaign, and he's done some cool things, has some cool stories, but also, first and foremost, a believer. And that right away just, was the glue that just bonded us together. And I knew that he was going to be the guy that was going to help us get done what we needed to get done.
Can I ask one question, just as a qualifier? Is he the guy that was, I want to make sure I heard, is he the guy that was talking Chicano?
Yes.
Okay, so he was a hardcore liberal.
He was.
At one time.
Yeah.
Woke up, saw the ways, and then became...
Through faith.
Through faith, yeah.
It was faith that changed him.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we were talking about the same guy. Yeah, that was actually a really cool story, just that in and of itself.
Yeah, he's got a really cool testimony. So I'd love to have him on for him to have an opportunity to share that. But even just the testimony that we have with what we walked together ever since I connected with him and he started working with me to help me figure out how we were going to tackle some of the obstacles that we were overcoming with some of the issues we ran into, which I've already talked about in prior episode. If you go listen to whatever episode it was that says Jared Heyman's testimony. If you're interested, if you're listening for the first time, you're wondering what I'm talking about, you can go listen to that episode. But anyhow, John knows this guy named Aaron. Aaron happens to be a notary, and Aaron does a whole bunch of other stuff too. But Aaron agrees to meet us at Chili's like 8, 9 p.m., something like that, in the middle of the week to notarize something that we needed notarized to get the deal pushed through to a close. And that's the first time that I had met Aaron. So fast forward to probably 4 weeks ago, I was on the phone with John Romero, and I was telling him about Victor Marx. He didn't even know anything about Victor Marx yet. I was telling him, dude, this guy's running for governor, and I think that he can actually win in Colorado. And I'm really excited that he's running. I've been watching his stuff since I was a kid. Like, he's the real deal. And John started looking into him, and then it turns out that Aaron, the guy that I hadn't even seen for about a year, he just met us at Chili's randomly. Aaron has been a part of this Republican breakfast club thing and invites John to go to this breakfast with Victor Marx. This was 2 days ago now. It was Tuesday night. And so John called me. I called him back after classes when we were finished at the gym. And he was like, hey, you want to go to breakfast with Victor Marx tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I guess. He was like, I know it was crazy because you just now told me about him, but my friend Aaron, you remember Aaron, he met us at Chili's and notarized this thing for us. He just invited me to this, and you were just telling me about him. Like, I think that we should go. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then immediately I let you know about it, and then we had breakfast yesterday, and it was awesome. I've never been to like a Republican, like, political type breakfast event like that.
Yeah.
It was
highs and lows in those things.
Yeah,
But yesterday was a high.
Yeah, for sure. But it was really cool to be in a room that was a little bit more of a, personal setting.
Yeah.
And to just listen to Victor Marx share. Here's the thing. Here's the context on Victor Marx, and here's my experience with him. Almost everybody that's listening to this, there's a very good chance that you have seen a video of Victor Marx. Victor Marx has the world record for the fastest gun disarm. And he has videos that have millions of views for him disarming people. And one of the most notable, he disarms two people at the same time, one in front, one in back, disarms them both lightning speed. Crazy. If you blink, you miss it. And the cool thing is the greater context of that video that has got so many views is he's in a gymnasium talking to a whole bunch of kids, and he's using martial arts demonstrations as a way to minister to these kids.
Yeah.
Talk about life, but more importantly, talk about faith. And if you go watch his video, the entire video where that clip comes from, it's so cool to see the way that he ties all these things together to really be effective in sharing faith with this body of young people. It's awesome. I'll turn it over to you guys, these.
Go ahead. I love it. I love when those come out of nowhere. You're just like, I feel like I'm gonna die. So
it's even worse because it didn't come out.
Yeah. So to paint, I guess, a little bit of a portrait on this. So I've been in the at least inner circle politically out here at some level for about 15 years. And I don't mean high up or highly connected. I just mean on the periphery. I did a little bit of delegacy stuff, captain thing in the district. And so I've been part of trying to promote and push and get out the vote kind of deal. Felt led back in the day to do it. Things have changed a lot. The thing that I genuinely appreciated about Victor, and I think we should just dive into this thing from the beginning to the end. But the first thing that Victor did when he came up, and I highly encourage anybody to dig into him. The first thing he opened up with, he said, "Look, before I say anything, before I do anything, I'm not a politician. I'm a leader. Here's the, I can give you my resume." He goes, "But before I do any of that stuff," and he was kind of like, whatever, who cares? He goes, "Let me just talk about my faith." He goes, "Because I get attacked and told, you're not going to win over a constituency if you talk about this." And he's like, "Well, it's the foundation of everything I do." What do you mean? Don't talk about it? And I just, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm not word for word, but that was essentially what he said. And I just sat back and I thought, I was replaying the last 15 years of my life, and I'm trying to remember when I sat in a room or at a stump speech or at anything that I've ever been to, anything, and ever heard somebody come out and open with that and just say, win or lose, here's who I am, and I'm not faking it. That, to me, set the tone immediately for the room. Immediately.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. I mean, for him to get up and speak, he spoke for a good while.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an hour, but, it was at least 25 minutes, I'd say, pretty close to that. And he's just talking. And what immediately stood out to me, he doesn't have any notes in front of him. He doesn't have a teleprompter. He's just talking to this group of people, and he's clearly speaking from his heart. because you don't just talk that long with that much clarity and that much conviction without any notes or anything to keep you grounded, unless it's actually truly just who you are and it's how you actually carry yourself.
Yep.
And whenever he just continued to speak and the message just became weightier and weightier, it's like, wow, this guy is genuine.
Yeah.
This guy is real. And whenever he starts talking about his primary motivation for running for governor is he has, I think if I remember correctly, he said he had 5 kids. And 5 kids, I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
I might be getting that wrong. But his kids have moved out of Colorado. And they have asked their kids to come back. Their kids don't want to come back to Colorado because it's so bad.
Yeah.
Like that's very telling.
It's a big statement.
And so Victor and his wife had discussions, and Victor, the way that he tells it, he says his wife said, you know, we got to make a decision. Either we're moving or we're going to figure out how we can help change this place, make it what it needs to be. And that's what they're deciding to do.
Yeah.
And I'm incredibly excited about it because I genuinely do think that Victor can win. And that was some of his statements in his what he talked about. He said, you know, there was other delegates. He said, I talked to him. I said, hey, do you think that you could win? And they said, well, there's always hope. And I mean, that's not what we need. We need, and that's exactly what he started to discuss is we don't just need hope. We need a plan. We need a strategy. And he really started to lay it all out on the line that the Democrats, the people on the left, the people that are pushing all these policies that are making Colorado head further and further into its own destruction and demise are people that come to elections with a plan, with a strategy. And it's not just hope that they win. They game the system. They do anything and everything they can to win. And Victor said that's what we need. We need that more than we need the most qualified legislator. We need that more than we need the most savvy politician. And I mean, Victor was very clear to say, I'm not a politician. I'm not a legislator. But you know what? I don't think that that's what we need right now. We need the opposite of those things right now. And I completely agree with him. And I really think that because of the life that he's lived, the work that he's done, and the man that he is the man for the job. I think that he can unify the party. I think that he can get people to vote. And I think that he can get a lot of people to see his genuine heart to make Colorado the best that it can possibly be.
Yeah. So. I agree. He there were a lot of things that he said that resonated with me, but the key that you just hit on, one of the gals in the room when they opened it up the floor for questions, and he was off the cuff and answered everything. I mean, there was no, as you said, no teleprompter. There were no notes. He wasn't looking at anybody to give him guidelines or hand signals. He answered it. One of the gals in the crowd said, you know, what are your top 5 policies? And I loved that question because I thought, here it comes. Like I knew immediately what he was going to say because I know exactly what I would say. And I would like to think we're pretty much verbatim cut from that same cloth when it comes to work and his whole lineage, his history. I mean, he and I had a private conversation. We went off to the side and talked for 10 minutes and very engaging. But when that gal asked that question, he you know, and I'll summarize. He basically said, let me tell you something about policy. He goes, you can have all the policies in the world, but if you can't win the fight, it doesn't matter. That comes from the special forces world. So you don't go into a battle plan with hope. Hope is one of those things you're like, well, you hope you win, sure. But hope is one of those things that when you're into a corner and you've exhausted the battle plan and there's nowhere else to go, you hope you get out. You don't go in with hope as your battle plan. And I loved the way when he said, we can bring the greatest policy writers anywhere in here, but if you can't win the fight, what's the point of entering the fight? Like, it doesn't matter what your policies are. He goes, now they matter from the standpoint of we have to have them. He goes, but if you can't answer the question, can you win? And that's when he gave that example of the other guy I hope I can. That right there just resonated so deeply with me because for me personally, that's how I look at everything in life. Like, what's the point of doing it if it's not going to be productive? All the way up to what's the point of running if I don't think I can win? If I'm just stepping into this thing for the next 11 months to hear myself talk and run in a circle to get trounced in the election, there would be what doesn't matter what I'm talking about. I can talk about the colors in a crayon box.
Yeah.
If I don't think I can win. And that was the one thing that I walked away from yesterday. That this guy is not only a fighter, he's been there, done it. And he's not done it in the political world. So he's going to bring all this experience world travels, multiple nations, multiple kids rescued, foundations that he's run. And I've dug into this guy. And there's one of two things you get with Victor, from what I've dug into. You get the authenticity of the man we saw yesterday, or you get somebody trying to tear down the authenticity of the man we saw yesterday. And there's not a whole lot of gray in between it. I have read a lot of articles online where people are trying to attack something they've never done. And I think it's because he's flat speaking the truth right now. And the truth scares people. For whatever reason, and we're seeing it culturally. We talked about it in the last episode, essentially. People succumb to fear. Well, if you look at what's happening, and he dusted on this a little bit, what's happening in the political races here, he came out and said the problem is the left is a machine, and they've got it figured out, and the right is trying to do it the way they've been doing it for the last 50 years. And he goes, and that has to change. He goes, we have to unite the Republicans, and we have to unite the independents. And we have to bring those two groups together. And that's how you win. And he's unequivocally right on that. I've been saying that for 15 years. That is nothing new. And I've gotten laughed out of rooms before going, you're just sticking your corner over there, young man. And okay, well, 10 years, 12, 15 years from now, let me know how things are going. Well, now we're here, and you can see how they're going. So this isn't I don't need to sit here and pat myself on the back. It was just very obvious. And I think he gets that. I think he sees that, and that's why he stepped in. That's just my take. He's like, we need something different. And you know what you're capable of. I think he knows he's capable of doing this.
Yeah.
He's been overseas. He's been shot. He's fought ISIS. He's done all of the things that he's done. He's gone in and pulled people out of the worst scenarios that you can. And if you really dig into this stuff and you listen and you look out there at the videos and the kids that he's pulled, I mean, this dude's a fighter. And he's a fighter for faith. He's a fighter for humanity. I mean, he's talking about Syrian refugees, I mean, all the different things that where he's been in. He's been interviewed by the biggest names on the planet with affirmation on everything he's done. There's nothing fake about the guy. And that, to me, scares people. People are terrified of that stuff because they want to live in their little bubble of, I'm free to do whatever I want to go do the way I want to go do it. And this is what we've been discussing on this podcast. But it's so important to have a candidate like that because he's unapologetically unafraid.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. And to have somebody who has done so much good, rescued so many people, like not just talked about it,
Done it.
not just been like, we need to do this, but literally been told you can't do this. And he's done it. Rescued women, children, gotten guys out of bad situations, brought people back that were otherwise probably going to be trapped overseas. He's done some incredible things, and boots on the ground kind of a way, leading the charge, not just, hey, you guys go do this and we'll stay over here and we'll just make sure that we're sending prayers your way. But no, it literally has been in the middle of it and been shoulder to shoulder with guys doing the work. That in itself is definitely what not only the country needs, but that's exactly what Colorado needs. And I said that in reverse order. It's not only what Colorado needs, it's what the country needs.
Yeah, you're correct.
And he, to your point, whenever you were talking earlier about, well, what are your top policies? It's like, what a stereotypical, just vanilla question that everybody wants to ask when it comes to politics. It's like, what are your policies? Well, I loved how he said common sense. Mm-hmm. That was really largely his answer.
Yeah.
There'll be common sense. There'll be common sense. We want to protect American citizens. We want to protect women and children. We want to make sure that we're doing the right things. There's a difference between right and wrong. We're going to be making common sense policies. But to your point that you said already is, he said, if I don't win, all this is just a whole nother wasted rhetoric. It's dialogue that doesn't even matter, because if I can't win, then it doesn't matter what policies I'm going to make. So we got to take this one step at a time. Let's focus on winning. The policies are all there, and he pointed people to his website. So there's more information you can find there, but we got to win. And I completely agree with him.
Yeah.
We got to break this up into the steps that make sense. And what you said, I think that it makes a lot of sense that would come from like a operative background, operations background, to where you're like, okay, well, none of that matters unless we win. Let's win.
Well, and that was something. So I'm just going back to days where we just kick doors. So let me keep it very simple. I'm not talking about going overseas or going into the box like some of these guys have done. Heroes that have defended our nation, stood over there in the front lines and gone after the worst of the worst. I'm talking about going after the worst of the worst here just in America, very simply. We get a lot of problems here. We discussed this on the last podcast. We're talking about the Muslim overthrow that is happening right now that is in Dearborn and in New York. Look, these things they should be on everybody's radar right now in a way where everybody is standing up. I don't care how you vote. I don't care what culture you come from. I don't care what you look at. It is you against people that literally are saying, we're coming to bring jihad to every door. That is a powerful statement in and of itself, because there is not only an ideology there and a belief system, but this is what they train to. Victor Marx knows this. He and I chatted about this for 30 seconds yesterday. He literally said, you see what's coming, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, we literally just talked about this Tuesday on our podcast. To which he said, I'm coming on your podcast.
Yeah, pretty
like,
cool.
All right, yeah, let's do that. That'd be a good idea. I think it'd be great for you to come in here and share. But I say that to share this. When I sat there and I looked into his eye, first of all, when he talks to you, he never breaks the gaze. He's not searching the room, doing a filler answer. When we stood there and talked, this was it the entire time. He never looked away. When he shook my hand, I thought he was going to break it. I mean, he meant it. You can there's an authenticity in it. Now, here's the thing I love about it, because I've been rah-rah on this guy a little bit. I've been following him for a while, much like you. It's funny because if you go back, I don't know how many episodes ago, you had texted me something about like Victor Marx. I'm like, who's Victor Marx?
Yeah.
Remember that text? And we were laughing. I'm like, yeah, I know who Victor is. Part of the self-defense stuff that I've taught over the years, one of the things that I do is I do armed weapon takeaway. Well, the very first person that I watched was Victor, and I'm like, I think I can do that. And I just started practicing, trying to emulate what he was doing, and I just developed my own way of controlling the gun, not just stripping the gun, but controlling it. When I stood there and shook his hand, now I understand. I mean, like you, to see the guy do something is one thing, but to stand in his presence, when he shook my hand, the first thing I thought of is this is what it would feel like to have a gun strip happen. And that's a very, it's hard to explain it on a microphone, but that's a very different feeling when you're looking into somebody's eyes and you know exactly this guy has that capability. And I took that in 4 seconds in my head, and I just transposed that to the governorship of Colorado. I took that moment and I went, with the intent that he's doing this right here, what if he did that intent out there? And that's what he said. He said it repeatedly over and over and over and over and over. But the unique thing in all of it is he opened, after he opened with faith, he said very briefly, he was like, look, man, here's my background. And it was rough.
Yeah.
Here's what I came from. And here's what woke me up. And then here's what I've stayed tried and true in. I felt like he was just talking to my soul, and some of the stuff that he was sharing when we were personally over off on the side, which will just stay between he and I was like, man, you are finishing my sentences right now. And he's looking at me, he's like, yep, and you're finishing mine. I mean, like when you have somebody who's authentic in trauma and bad hurt and think that they've been through, and they use that as not only a motivator, but a discipline in life. That's what I felt like I got from the guy yesterday. And I felt like the whole thing, from the handshake to I could envision it all. And I'm not putting the guy up on the pedestal. The guy's going to make mistakes. There's things that he's done wrong. There's things I've done wrong. He's human. But what I appreciate about it, he was authentic. He didn't pull any punches. I didn't feel like he was BSing anybody. He literally just sat there and answered question after question, statement after statement. And I thought, man, when was the last time you saw a politician do that? Yeah. And do it well? Mm-hmm. And he said it. I'm not a politician. And I think that's the difference right there.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot to get excited about as far as just the fact that he's running. But I really feel compelled, and I shared this with you after the meeting yesterday, that not only am I inspired, but I genuinely want to put my hands to work. I want to take action to do anything and everything that I can do to help Victor win. Now, what can I do? Well, here's the thing. Everybody should be asking that question. If you start looking up Victor Marx and you start to feel excited about the prospect of him potentially being the governor of Colorado, it should not just be excitement. We need to take action. We need to be telling our friends and family, hey, Victor Marx is awesome. We got to vote. Are you voting this season? We got to vote. We should show up to a Victor Marx event whenever he starts announcing all the events he's going to be doing on his campaign. We need to be showing up in force. We need to be doing anything and everything we can possibly do to get behind this and push it forward. And that's what I'm inspired to do. I genuinely want to help. I want to help him win in any and every way that I can. Big or small, whatever I can do, I will do. And something that we are doing is he's coming on Saturday.
Yep.
He's coming Saturday night. He's going to be here for JWI4, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's huge.
And not only is he going to be here, he said he's going to do a disarm.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
It is.
That's the coolest thing ever. And so he's going to be able to have a platform here and speak a little bit. And my intent is to just be able to clip him together and some of the best highlights that we get from JWI4. And hopefully we're able to make some really good media that shows, hey, this guy's running for governor of Colorado.
Right. I want to delve into this just for a second. So if people are listening and they're like, okay, cool, I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm not we're not military or law enforcement. We don't have a background in this. Why should I vote for this guy? Yeah, he went out and got a couple of things. Let me just say, let me steer you to his page. Because if you're a voter, you're a tax-paying citizen, you're going to get somebody. Let's just start there. In 26, you're going to get somebody. If what is happening in Colorado matters to you, and it should matter, period. But if you're not seeing what's happening in Colorado, then you're asleep at the wheel. So pull over, wake up, do whatever you got to do. This is where I'm going to double down a little bit in a manner of which I think he did yesterday, and I think he did it well. I'm going to straight out call out the Republican Party, and I hope they're listening right now. I said 15 years ago, I got involved. My wife and I got involved. And I was getting ready to run for office of coroner here in Douglas County. And I had a weird heart thing, thought I was going to have to get an ablation. It was a super weird deal. Ended up having to pull from the race almost immediately after going in, and I was very, very disappointed. But to me, it was, I felt impassioned. I felt called. I felt like I had at least enough experience compared to the candidate that was running. And this is why I'm saying this. We have a governor in office right now, and if you watch any of his videos, just pull up any of the reels that Jared Polis puts out. He looks like a fourth grader out there dorking around. He's a billionaire, got his daddy's money, and look what he's done to this state. And then look at the videos he makes. Look at the crap that he puts out. If this is what you want, because it's what you've had. If this is what you want this woke ideology and this weird agenda that's been going on, and kids drinking from dog bowls in classrooms, and the mutilation of kids and abortion, all of the stuff, all of the bad. If that's what you want, then don't get involved. Don't vote. If you don't want that, get involved. But the thing that he said, and the thing that I won't just double down, I'll triple down on it. The thing that drives me crazy about the Republican Party, this is why the independent voters are so important. I think the young independents need to come in and straighten out the older Republicans. And I'm speaking of myself when I say it. I'm not chastising the Republican Party. I am that. I'm 50. I'll be 58 this year. We have too many people that have dissected themselves into subgroups in the Republican Party. And I sat in that room yesterday at a table, and I listened to a guy say, I'm a precinct captain. I'm coming here, and I've never met this guy. But if he doesn't appeal to me, then I'm going to go back to the precinct and say, well, let me tell you, he's not our guy. And I just about wanted to crawl over the table on him. That was before you got there. And I looked over and I said, dude, if there's anything that needs to be done right now, it's everybody in this room needs to be united in the Republican Party. Get behind your candidate for the values of what are being stripped from us in this state right now. I said, regardless of what he's going to say or not say, you've not heard him speak. So let me just take that out of the equation. He and I got tiffy with each other. I said, are you, so with what's happening right now, do you support what's happening right now? Well, absolutely I don't. Well, then if that's the case, as much as I hate to say it this way, then anything is better than what's happening right now. And he said, well, that's true. And then he put a but at the end of it. And I said, no. That's not what this is about. We need to be united. We need to come in. You to cherry pick a certain thing here or a policy there. If that's what your stance is, then we've already lost, and that's not going to work. And then Victor Marx came in, and what was the first thing he said?
Yep.
First thing he said when he started his physical speech is he says, we got to get the garbage out of the room. We got to forget the policy thing for a minute. We got to get behind the person that can win. We got to unite the party, and we got to bring the independents in. It was the first thing he said. And I looked over at that guy, and I wasn't trying to do an I told you so moment, but I literally looked at him. I kind of just like, and he went, yeah, okay. And I could see it. And I was just like, but that right there is a great example because that's been the Republican Party for so long. For so long. There was a person in the room you wouldn't know, and I'm not going to name them out, but I can tell you they've run for every local office there is in that room because they're all about themselves. And those are the people that need to wake up, they need to get behind the party, and they need to say, wait a second. Yeah. Look what is happening abroad. We have kids being we have law passed where we can mutilate children, protected by law, and if we fight it, the parents can be charged criminally or civilly, and you're telling me that is better? And that's the message that I hope Victor just comes swinging with a sledgehammer on. Because right now we need to, the world has lost its mind, but Colorado is like practically leading the charge. I mean, we're like neck and neck with New York right now.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's awful. And we need a guy and it's not one guy's not going to solve it. To your point, everybody's got to get involved, but we need a guy to get behind that can win the fight.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's anybody else besides Victor that can win. I'll be honest with you. I don't. I've looked at the other candidates, and they are not going to have the juice to be able to get Colorado excited. They're not. Victor does. Why does Victor have it? Victor has it because he has a life full of accomplishments that are in good deeds. It's good work. It's humanitarian work. That's what you would call it if you don't believe. If you believe, you know that it's doing God's work.
Yeah.
It's doing what a Christian would do besides just sitting on his hands and saying, I believe in Jesus. It's actually what it looks like when you follow Jesus. You do something about it. You actually stand for good in the world. Victor has done that. And because he's done that, he has a very big following. Because he has a very big following, and it's because of all those things, that is why he can win. Because he can get people excited. He can get people on the Republican Party to be able to believe, wow, I think we could actually win. And then the independents, oh, who's this guy that's running? Oh, he's done all that stuff? Oh, what? He's got the world record on gun disarm? Oh, that's pretty cool. He can get people excited about the potential of making Colorado better. I think that he is one of the only people that can do that. The other guys, nobody knows who, with a grain of salt, nobody really knows who the other candidates are. I mean, they have a following of their own. I'm sure they have a life spent decently well doing some things politically that maybe have made somewhat of a difference. But I'm telling you right now, it's not the difference that Victor has made.
Right.
It's not the difference that Victor has made worldwide. Victor has far wider reaching influence. And honestly, it's for good reason. It's because he has been there. He has done that. He has actually done the work. That's who we need. We need somebody who's not just talk, who's not just going to fight by trying to sign into law things. That's not what we need. We need somebody who's able to make decisions and somebody who's able to lead and somebody who's able to put a foot down and say, we're not going to let Colorado continue to destroy itself.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe Victor brings to the table. And I think that, like he shared yesterday, all that's well and good. That's awesome. So cool that we have a candidate that's able to fit and check all those boxes. But more importantly, one that's actually able to win. That's the most important thing. If we can't start there, then all of it doesn't matter. You know, so just the fact that he could win, he can win, I believe that he's going to win. We have 11 months. 11 months to do anything and everything.
Well, technically, that's true. But technically, it's 5 because he's got to win the primary.
5.
You got to win the primary if you're going to go on. So it's 5 hardcore months to be the nomination to then win in 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a 2-step process that he's got right. Well, it's actually a 3, but the 2 biggies. Anybody listening to this will be like, well, clearly you guys are behind him. Let me say a different reason why, for me, why I think that this guy is important to this state right now and to this country right now. So we had somebody came in here and sat in that chair, episode 40, and then we've mentioned him a couple times. One of my dearest friends in life. He's a guy I advocate for. He's the real deal. He's authentic, and that's Eli Crane, Congressman, Navy SEAL. When he was first elected, he went to D.C., and there was a group of what I would call dissenters. It was like 20 of them that went in, and they went up against McCarthy and a handful of others, and they said, enough of this. Enough of this garbage rhetoric, the same old, the spin, enough of it. We're coming in, and we're laying down the law as essentially there was a couple freshmen that were there, and there were a couple sophomores there, and a couple other guys, but they all collectively came together, and they did something very, very, very important. And I would highly recommend, if you're not engaged with what's happening in America, look up the dissenters on their original deal when they went in and what they stood against and what they got, what they got done. I watched a video, I think it was aired, it was either yesterday or the day before, of Eli going toe-to-toe with this, I think it was a cop, who essentially is saying ICE is just out to lock up brown people. And Eli said, let's talk about that for a minute. And so he went, and I highly encourage you guys to go look this clip up, because I'm not going to replay the clip. It's here to talk about it all day. What ticks me off about stuff like this is you have somebody that comes out and says something like that, and then millions of people go, yep, that's exactly the problem. And Eli's like, you understand who's working for ICE, right? Like, there's practically every ethnicity, culture. This isn't, to Eli's point, this is a bunch of white dudes running around locking up to this other guy's point, a bunch of brown people. That's not what this is at all. And he showcased it. And you have to have people, the reason I'm bringing this up is you have to have people that are willing to call the garbage for what it is and stand on the truth for what it is. As uncomfortable as it may be, you have to be willing to do it. And then Eli looked around the room, and he just started pointing at different people. He said, do you disagree? Do you disagree? Do you? And he's looking on both sides of the aisle. And I can tell you, both sides of the aisle said, no, actually, what that cop, whoever he was, I don't know, I didn't see how he introduced himself, but they just mentioned he was law enforcement on some level. He said, no, he's wrong. And this was left and right saying it. Like, that's a garbage racist statement. And we need to stop this kind of stuff, because all it does is just invoke more problems. And Eli said, I'm ashamed to even have you in this room, to hear you say that. There's no reason this should be said right now. That's the take that I get in many ways from Victor is, no, we're not. Because he said it about abortion yesterday, right? He just straight out said it. He's like, well, so killing kids is okay? Like that's what how long we've been doing this? We're just going to keep voting this into office? He's calling it what it is, murder. And when you have somebody who's willing to stand on it, they're going to get attacked, and they're going to need people to surround him to help protect him, because the truth is going to be hard. And we are coming into in my opinion, I think 26, the midterms are going to be the most challenging election season that this country's ever seen. I'll predict it. I'll stand on it. And in Colorado, we will be, if not the most important state, one of the top three of what happens in the country. Because what happens here potentially is a paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. In the things that he's going to be saying and doing and having to stand for, man, we got a salt taste of it yesterday. Wait till you get into the middle of this thing. Wait till you get into this thing and start really fleshing it out. It's going to get rough and tumble, and it needs to. And who do you want in that fight? Who do you want? I want somebody who's been there. Yeah. I want somebody who can stand the ground. I want an Eli Crane sitting in Congress going, hey, look, man, agree with me or disagree with me. I don't care. I'm calling you out on it. Don't say racist stuff like that. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. Here's who I've served with. Here's what my brothers look like.
Yeah.
Don't ever box me in, ever, because you are a racist. I mean, he straight out said it, and I'm like, good. And that's the stuff right there that we will be confronting. We'll be meeting it head on. There's no doubt in my mind, because it's everywhere. It's rampant. And when somebody stands against it, you know what happens. But he said it yesterday. He said, stand. Shoot, you better believe I am. I'm the only guy that can do it. Look at the party. Look at the tickets. Look who I'm up against. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just silly to think of anybody on the Republican Party not putting him in as the nominee, not letting him be the one who we rally behind and the one who unites us. Nobody else is going to win. He's the one who can win. He's the one who will win if we can just get behind him. Not getting behind him is silly. So to your point, 5 months for the primaries, I understand. But 11 months, assuming that people stop being silly and people just realize this is the guy. He's the one who can win this thing. Let's get behind him. Hopefully we're able to get there, and hopefully we're able to get there sooner than later. Hopefully it doesn't take all 5 months. Hopefully it just takes a couple months for people to realize, oh, yeah, he's actually the one who could win. We need to stop acting like anybody else even has a chance.
I think it's got to be flooded right now because people are consumed, man. You're stuck in your screen time. We've talked about this episode after episode. People are not focused. It's about their world. The world's fixing to get a lot worse if we don't get in front of this stuff. So spreading that word becomes really important. Look what happened here in Douglas County with the school board. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I have to admit my own failure in this, and I'll stand here and I'll look into the camera and I'll own it in front of the world. I thought that the 4 people that were running on the conservative side were a shoo-in. I honestly did. I did. I looked at them. I listened to what they were saying. I looked at what they were standing for. I thought it was a done deal. Oh, how wrong I was. I was wrong by about 5 percentage points, maybe 7 or 8 on a couple of them. Blew me away that we have people here in Douglas County that go, yep, I want transgender policies. I want mutilation of kid policies in the school. I want kids to be able to identify in any way they want, drink out of dog bowls. That's why Victor said common sense policies. I thought that test drive was over. I legitimately in my head, I thought, it's all done. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We'll see pieces of it, but this is not going to be a thing here in Douglas County. Oh no. Yeah. We are one of the last bastions of hope in Colorado. And we just elected a school board that is demonstrative. But here's the bigger part of it, and this was Victor's point yesterday, and I'll make it my point, and I'll keep saying it until people get tired of hearing it. Flip and show up and vote. Because if you go back, go to Douglas County, clerk and recorder, pull up the votes of the last election. Look how many people are capable of voting, and look how many people voted. And that right there is the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Now, I voted, but I thought it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win. I stumped for a couple of them. I thought it was a foregone conclusion. Everybody I talked to said, we're so done with this stuff. I wasn't hearing anything but that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here comes this well-oiled machine out of nowhere that you're hardly hearing anything about.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, bam.
Yep. The Democrats have their system figured out, man. They know how to get people to show up and vote. And that's where we as Republicans, we as conservatives, forget about even calling you. If you have any issue with any of the titles, okay, I'm worn out, and I'm sick and tired of politics on both sides of the aisle. Yep. And I think most people are. At the end of the day, we know we need to shift in the right direction, and we need to show up and get in the fight in order for that to happen. We can't assume, people are fed up, so it's okay. No, we need to do anything and everything we can. Not just on election day, but before election day, we really need to get involved. We need to have these conversations with everyone that we know, and we really need to take a hard look at Colorado. Let's take a hard look at everything that has continued to go wrong over the past several years and see, do you really think that in the next 5 years, 10 years, you really think that if we continue on this path and there's no change, that anything good is going to come out of it? No, it's going to be absolutely horrible. Horrible. One of Victor's points in his speech was that we're a sanctuary state right now for people coming to get abortions all the way up until birth.
Yep.
We talked about abortion quite a bit in the last episode. And I was pretty heavy-hearted after, because here's the thing. Abortion is absolutely awful. It is murder. And I hate the thought of how many millions of babies die for absolutely no reason. But I feel it strongly on my heart to make sure that anybody who is listening, maybe you have had an abortion, maybe you know somebody who's had an abortion. What we're talking about, we're not condemning you. You still have the ability with repentance to seek forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so important for anybody and anybody out there to hear and to know and believe is there's forgiveness and there's grace and there's mercy for you. If you've gotten an abortion, guess what? There's still grace. Even if you went out and you murdered somebody, there's murderers who repent and they experience forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
So rest assured, Jesus loves all the children. So if you were a part of that problem, if you made that mistake, and you've carried the guilt or the shame of that. Know that your baby's in a good place.
Yeah.
And know that there's forgiveness for you, because we talked about this on the last episode quite a bit, of the system just trying to beat us with a hammer to get us just numb, to where that consciousness that we're born with, where we know what's right from wrong, it's just numb. And we just keep doubling down on what's wrong. And I can't help but think that this system that has been put into place with abortion, the cycle has been, well, they're pushing it for their agendas. They're making millions of dollars off of abortions, and they continue to push the policies in that direction. But it's the ground level, the people, that really are being victimized by this, because they go in, they have an abortion. I can't help but think how many mothers are out there that live with this level of regret of, man, I wonder what that baby would have looked like.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder what color eyes it would have had. Wonder what that baby would be doing right now. But rather than just facing that regret and guilt head on, the system that has continued its cycle makes them want to turn that guilt into bitterness and resentment, to where if you tell me that I was wrong for this, you're wrong. And it's doubling down on the wrong nature of abortion. It's doubling down because it's a system that's continued to try to make people numb. And rather than acknowledging that guilt or that remorse or that regret that you're feeling, you want to just shove it down. You want to beat it with a hammer and say, no, I was right. Everybody else says I was right. The system says I was right. The law says I was right. So who are you to tell me that I was wrong? It's my body. It's my choice. Those are all defensive responses that are coming out of a place of, clearly there's been something that's gone super wrong in society for those victims. I believe that a lot of them are victims. And there's this organization that they try to help prevent abortion by way of just paying for an ultrasound for women who are contemplating abortion. That's incredible, I think.
Yeah.
Let them see the baby. Let them start to get attached to the maternal instincts that already naturally exist.
Yep.
But all that's a greater discussion. But I really just wanted to make sure to bring that back to surface and just say there's grace and there's mercy for you. No matter what mistake you've made, there's grace, there's mercy for you, and there's forgiveness for you. And whenever we're talking about these subjects, it's not to condemn anybody.
Yeah.
It's not to condemn anything except for the enemy that we know that we really truly have. And that's the enemy that's trying to get us all to go down, trying to turn this world upside down and trying to pull us all away from grace. Make sure we're staying on point on this podcast. We're trying to bring people to grace and to mercy and to an understanding that, yes, these things are horrible. We want to vote them out. We don't want this system to continue to create more victims. We want to do everything we can to promote good in the world, not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. But at the same time, when we say these things, don't let it offend you. Don't let it offend you. Instead, remember the most important words that we talk about on this podcast, and that is our faith in Jesus Christ. And I'm not perfect, and Mike is not perfect. And there's grace and there's mercy that has been sufficient to cover us and to change us and to grow us and to continue to make us into the men that we are. And Lord willing, we're doing a good job and we're being good examples. But I wanted to make sure to cover that and just say that for anybody that's out there.
I'm glad you did, and it's something that it was a foregone conclusion for me, so I'm glad you said it. But the Daily Carry, the logo sitting up here on the screen, we have a cross in the background sitting over the top of a flag. There's a gun and a knife because the world's gone cold. Right to defend yourself, Bill of Rights, yada, yada, yada. The single most important thing up there is the cross. The one thing that's great about this country, well, there's many things that are great about this country, but the one thing that is great about this country is the First Amendment. And so many people go to freedom of speech. But what's the first thing in the First Amendment? It's not your ability to say what you want. It's your ability to what? Worship. It's your ability to have faith, have religion. It doesn't say Christianity. It doesn't say Hindu. It doesn't say, it says religion, your ability to go. And I think if I'm standing back in 17, let's say, before 1791, let's call it 1785, when a lot of this stuff was a hot button topic and they're trying to figure things out, and before everything, the ratification happened, I can see men sitting around a room, much like we're sitting here right now, looking at each other going, what are we fighting for?
Yeah.
What is this thing? Like, I mean, we'll enact policy, but for America to win, right? Much like what Victor said yesterday, you got to have somebody who can win. Well, if I'm looking at it from the country's perspective and I'm writing a Bill of Rights for the country, how does the country win? And we enact this, and then 2 decades later, almost literally, 1973, I think it was, we go, yeah, that's my ability to kill a human being inside me. I was born in 68. That wasn't an option in 68. Not legally, anyway. I don't know whether I would have been here or not, because my mom was 16 at the time, and I can tell you she carries some pretty heavy regrets about getting pregnant at 16 in small-town Kentucky and the ramifications that came from it. She's never once looked at me and said, I wish I didn't have you. But I know the journey she had to walk was pretty heavy. There's a lot of people, to your point, gals, that have walked, I can only imagine, immensely painful journeys. Choice in that moment. What I was referring to the other day was out of convenience. When you can just be numb and not care, that bothers me. It bothers me that it's so easy. But to your point, there's also something that's also easy, and that is redemption. It is falling on your knees and saying, I feel like I have really messed up, and I want to make right with God. I want to be at peace with this. I want to get this 1,000-pound gorilla off my chest. I've talked to a lot of gals through my wife's counseling stuff and things that we've done together that carry immense regret on this stuff. And there's also people that haven't. But the point behind all of this is the daily carry. Is what you're in this podcast is what you're carrying. So I carry that Springfield on my back. I carry a knife with me everywhere I go. I use it to open boxes. I'm ready for evil in the doorstep, but it's what I carry there in my soul and my salvation. The thing that and I'll take this back to Victor for a second. The reason I loved what he said when he opened up is this where I'm starting, is I think that message, regardless of policy, regardless of what we're getting ready to dive into, what people are going to see and hear, that I've heard him say multiple times now, and I heard it in the flesh yesterday. I watched it, saw the conviction in his eyes when we had our one-on-one, which will remain private. I saw it, I heard it. I genuinely believe that is going to be the triumphant element of this election. Policy will matter. Certain things will matter for sure. But at the end of the day, I believe the independent people and I believe the Republicans that are divided will eventually come around and go, wait a second. Here's a man, and he's not a man of all things. I'm not going to paint that picture. That's not fair to do to him. And I think I would be doing it unjust. I think he's an honorable man from everything I've seen. I think he's walked the walk and he's talked the talk and he's got the ability to go do things. Am I putting him up on a level of all things? No, I'm not, because I know he's fallible. But what I love about it is that he started with it, and I believe he's going to continue with it, and I think he's going to end with it. And when you have that, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to defeat. Mm-hmm. And I believe it unites. And at the same time, you and I both know it's going to divide. And why will it divide? Because evil finds a way. It's like water. It just keeps coming at you and coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. And the further he gets, the further he's progressing, the more the attacks are going to build. We've watched this happen politically. You can pick any example where it happens. If he's a man of character the way I think he is, then this thing right up here, we'll get him a T-shirt to wear. I think that the center point of that logo right there is how he lives his life. That's how I took him yesterday. And it's not just a one-off meeting. I've been watching the guy for a while. I'm listening to what he's saying. I'm listening to him say it over and over and over and over. And I don't think he's saying it because he likes saying it. I think he's saying it because he lived it.
Yeah.
When you come from a trauma past and a broken past and a choice past that he did, and you started finding your way, and then you found salvation, and then you become what he's become, dude, that's inspiring to people. It's like, I can do that too. So anybody that's made choices in life, you can look at somebody and go, wait a second, they've righted their ship. They're not perfect, but there must be something to this thing they're believing in. And I've got to believe that God will work through him in ways yet to be seen.
Amen. Amen to that. And we're coming to a close here, so I'm going to end this out my side, hand it over back to you to close this out. But I'll just say, Victor did open up talking about his faith. He also opened up talking about other people potentially being more qualified for him, but can they win? Probably not.
Yep.
But he said what he will do is make a commitment to surround himself with the people that know what they need to know, which is huge. I mean, that's walking in humility, but it's also leading the way and leading it without apology.
Yes.
Listen, no, you guys aren't going to win. I can win. I might not know everything that I need to know, but we're going to learn along the way. I'm going to make sure that the right people are in place. That's incredible. That shows you that he's a man who's ready to lead and he's ready to do it well. But there was three things that he said, and we've touched on them a little bit, but just to lay it out for everybody that's listening. He said, according to whoever this person was, who was a notable person, telling him how he could win this. How can you win this? How can you win the seat and become the governor of Colorado? Well, you got to unite the party and energize the independents and then raise $25 to $30 million.
Yep.
Those were the three things.
Yep.
Nobody else on the card can punch all three of those things. Nobody.
Right.
Victor can do all three of those things, and he can do them all, I think, very well. I truly believe that Victor Marx very well could be Colorado's new governor, 2026. Lord willing.
Well,
that's what I'll end it out on. All to you.
You said it well. He'll be here, barring an anomaly or any massive speed bumps. He'll be here Saturday night for JWI4. He will come in, and we're going to give him the floor for a few minutes to talk. We'll be live streaming on YouTube.
Yep.
So people can watch and hear what he has to say for himself. Watch a pretty cool demonstration, and then we'll get him on the podcast to actually be able to deep dive into some of these things and just hear his word, not Jared and Micah's opinion of something. So looking forward to all those things. I will say my close on this was yesterday. The one thing that I appreciated, I know I've already said it, when the man looked me in the eyes and shook my hand. This is something that I have said a couple times years gone by. When somebody sticks their hand out, who's a man, and shakes my hand like a limp, dead fish, I have trust issues immediately. I don't know why. I always have. It just weirds me out. When he grabbed my hand, he actually pulled me in a couple inches and looked me in the eye and said what he meant to say. And that right there, that goes miles. It doesn't answer everything, but it goes miles for me. So I really appreciated that. I appreciated that he was kind of a dude's dude, a man's man. He was unapologetic about it. And the thing that I loved, the one comment that he made, I love, he's like, I don't know what I don't know, but we'll figure it out. I like guys like that. Yeah. I like guys that are willing to step into the fray and go, yeah, we're here. Now, we're going to go into the battle plan, but dadgummit, there's going to be some things that we're going to come across. I'm going to surround myself with the right people, and I appreciated that. So,
absolutely. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Close us out. Here I go. Father God, thank you for just an opportunity yesterday to go sit down and sit with what I believe to be an honorable man. Hear his heart, hear his testimony in part, and then just create a connection on something that gives hope. It's so very important. And this world is so wayward and so lost right now, and our leadership in this state is just feckless. It is awful right now, and so many people just supporting so much bad and so much evil. And I just hope and pray that people just come to the light and see the way. And that to me right now is so much bigger than politics, so much bigger than a governorship, so much bigger than anything. It's just people finding the light, finding the way. So be with us as Coloradans, be with us and our families here locally this weekend. Big event. Looking forward to it. Just ask your hand of coverage over us. It's in your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Till next time.
Till next time.
I carry a gun 'cause this world's gone cold. A knife for the path when the stories unfold. But the one that leads me, come fire or trial, is the word in my hand with a leather-bound smile. It's the light.